like to call this meeting to order. Joe, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Livingston.
Here.
Mr. Leone.
Here.
Mr. Tolmer.
Here.
Ms. Belcher's absent. And Ms. Cimaroli.
Here.
I think Pat signed in. Yes.
Pat signed in?
Pat signed in.
Okay.
Thank you all very much. I regret that I won't be able to stay here for the balance of the meeting. I look forward to watching it on video with appreciation. Thank you for your efforts, and I hope that we can do something wonderful for the zoning in our business district. So thank you very much. I look forward to seeing what you have to present.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, adoption of January 27th, 2025 meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Second.
please.
Second.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of adopting the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any new business? Okay, moving on. Downtown zoning district update. Randy,
Hey.
you have the floor.
We can sit down up here if you want.
Did you want to
I know,
pick
there's
up there?
there's lots of room.
To the table?
Yeah, so I can have somewhere to write notes, if you don't mind joining me up there.
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay, so, I did put together a brief presentation, I thought we could go through real quick, just to kind of set the stage for where the thought process is coming from in terms of planning for downtown business districts, especially in regard to zoning. And tonight, our discussion is going to be focused on uses, and also on reviewing the updated boundary. So some thoughts behind the types of uses that are and aren't appropriate for a downtown business district. So, first is the map. Did you all get an updated boundary map? And I do have a large version too over there, but probably easier for you to see on your handouts. So I updated the boundaries based on our discussion from last month. We tried to smooth out the borders and also take into account some of the areas behind properties fronting Washington Avenue or Washington Pike where it made sense. So were there any thoughts on that updated boundary? Does it look better? Are there still areas that we need to address?
I mentioned that's something I'll bring up. Should I bring it up?
What was that one?
So, looking at when we did the comprehensive plan, and there was a conceptual of the possibility that what could go in.
Yeah, so there were more properties
Yes.
included in there, so that's a discussion point. That didn't come up last month.
Right. I kind of kept it. I didn't.
Yeah, but 100% Mike, that's a good point. So if you look down, towards the Collier border, the area that we had identified as a redevelopment site, I don't think is fully included
You had to cut in half.
on this map. So that is open for discussion if we want to push it back to Carroll. I believe those boundaries went back to Carroll Street.
That conceptual, I think it should have done it, Carol.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. So that would include, another kind of 2 blocks along Carroll Avenue there from Bower Hill over to Irvine.
Or put this building into it.
And would you only do the left side of Carroll? Because like the creek side of Carroll was rather industrial.
Right.
Right.
I would just do.
Yeah, that's what it showed in the
I'd put it
comp.
straight down to Carroll. I don't even know if I'd do this. I'd leave that industrial.
Well, it was just something I was thinking about, but go down Irvin Street,
Here and here.
Irwin Street to Carroll, to Bellevue.
Carroll, yeah.
So down Irwin and then all the way down Carroll to Bower Hill. Yeah. Then I think that pretty much captures that redevelopment site.
Yeah.
My only question is up the north end, at the end of Chute, Schulte.
That little parcel
That
there.
two little parcels back there.
Yeah, I think they were houses.
There's two houses and then there's a contractor's stockyard in the back behind the dance studio.
I did notice there were two houses, that's why I didn't include them.
Okay.
Where is the roller rink? Or is it not on here?
It's on
It's on
there.
there.
That's right. See a little, if you,
Like the.
It's a big giant
striped,
white
like
roof.
The white,
yeah,
this white building.
that's the roller rink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you look at it like this, easier to figure out.
Now, the area along, Carroll that we just included, I know one person owns a lot of those properties. I can't remember the existing land use, are there a lot of houses on there now?
That site's a single family homes.
So the only thing to think about there is, I mean, I know we identified it as a redevelopment site. One person owns them and is looking at doing something different there. But it will make those houses non-conforming, which is not terrible. I mean, they're still allowed to continue as we discussed last month.
Yeah, they're currently not conforming.
So, oh, because they're in the mixed use. Okay, so then that doesn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
correct.
Good point, Joe. Yeah. So we're good there.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll push that boundary back.
It seems logical.
Yeah.
It's a really good point, Mike.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's, we show one thing.
Right, the point is to try to be as consistent as possible, knowing that sometimes there are alterations that need to be made. But if there's consensus to include that, then I think that's a great idea, to be consistent with the comp plan. Okay.
And that little jog that's off, it's a corner of Chartiers and Werner. Right beside the CVS.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be somewhat valuable, I would think, to include in a business district.
It's still in a business district, it's just not as restrictive
Oh,
as is
okay.
Washington Avenue.
Okay,
It's
okay,
still in your mixed use.
okay.
Speaking of the Rite Aid, is there any rumors about anything going on there?
Nothing to us.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything, you, Joe? No.
Only because there's.
National issues.
Yeah. You hear some of them closing and whatnot.
Yeah, the one in my neighborhood doesn't have hardly anything on the shelf.
That's all
It's the
right.
same here.
It's like half empty.
And the windows broke.
And it's so weird.
You know,
They
for
found
the
chapter 11,
Okay.
naturally.
So they're not restocking shelves, it doesn't look
Well,
like.
I was in there and they said, oh, yeah, we're gonna get back to doing it. And,
Yeah, the problem is to get out some of their creditors.
yeah.
Reorder stuff.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, any other discussion on the boundary? Alright, so this slide shows some goals, the 4 points from the National Main Street Institute, or National Main Street Center. So they are a national organization that promote downtown and Main Street principles, and they work with downtowns across the country to revitalize themselves. They do also have some funding opportunities, but because it's a national organization, even those are much smaller for, depending on where you are. But I thought it was important to show their strategy for a downtown. It has those 4 points, and it's focused on a deliberate path to revitalizing or strengthening a downtown or a commercial district's economy. So that's kind of where you are in Bridgeville. You're looking to strengthen and build your downtown. So the first point is economic vitality, design, promotion, and organization. So for our process for the zoning, we're focused on economic vitality. That's where you can focus on uses and things that are allowed in your downtown to encourage economic development. Design is looking more, and that also is tied to what we're doing a bit, because we are going to talk about design guidelines. I know you currently have some that may or may not be successful. promotion and organization, those we won't be touching on in this process. That is looking at marketing your downtown and then having an organization, like a Main Street organization, which were things that we did talk about in the comprehensive plan. But for the zoning process, we're going to be focusing on those first two, economic vitality and design. And the reason I'm bringing this up is to point out that this isn't something that Mackin made up or that, Digital Boroughs Planning Commission is making up. These are national principles that are put into place all across the country to help make downtown successful. A lot of research and strategies go into their work at the center, and these are kind of the things that they recommend. So then the next slide. So focusing tonight, like we talked about on the agenda, looking at land uses, what uses are going to be allowed in your downtown business district. As you know, currently with your mixed use district, you allow a wide range of uses, some of which may or may not be appropriate in a downtown. So this is just a sample of uses. This is by no means end all be all or everything that you should be allowing. But primarily retail stores, allowing mixed use development is really big. So something happening on the first floor that's non-residential, and then you have apartments above. That's a huge part in making a downtown successful. And that came out in Todd Poole's study that he did for the comprehensive plan, allowing that second story residential, trying to get people to move into your downtown to be users of the businesses and other things that are locating in downtown. Hotel, motel, now that with a caveat, more of a boutique, smaller hotel, motel. You don't want a huge, like Hilton, moving into your downtown because of the car traffic that would bring in and the disruption to pedestrian traffic.
This sounds silly, but I think the one on Lebanon is actually a nice asset.
Which one?
There's that big brand new hotel.
I haven't been to Mount Lebanon for
It's like right
years.
a couple doors down from the police station.
How many rooms is it and how
I
many
don't know,
stories?
it's probably like
30 or 40, I thought.
Yeah, it's a big 8-story or so hotel.
Yeah, so I was thinking more of like the 200 to 300 unit hotels.
Like a Hampton Inn.
Yeah, like the huge ones
These
that
are
you
like the
see.
Springfields.
Yeah, it's Springfield.
So that's more on that small to medium-sized
you-
hotel that I think are appropriate for that.
How do you regulate, can you write zoning where it's like, hey, we don't mind if it's
200 rooms
It
versus
is.
400?
So you cap the building height, you cap the size of the lots. So that's how you can't say you can only have 10 rooms in your hotel. Like, that's not normally
Right.
something that you would do. But how you regulate that is through your dimensional requirements.
Okay.
Grocery stores, again, on a smaller scale, you're not looking to put like a Sam's Club. And those are more than
A
grocery
mom's
stores
market
too.
or
But
something.
a mom and pop market, something small, again, regulating through dimensional requirements in terms of the size. And you can also, with your uses, put a square footage limitation. So I have seen in other ordinances, for instance, eating and drinking establishments over 5,000 square feet are allowed in certain areas. Those under 5,000 square feet are allowed in other areas. So you can also, that's how you can also regulate the size of things going into your downtown. Day spas, bakeries, theaters, those kinds of things. Personal services, like the day spa, the nail salon, hair salon. And then
Tattoo parlor?
tattoo parlor,
So, going back to bakery, I'm just using Oak One as an example.
so again, you can regulate by size and what they're doing there. Oakmont is almost a light industrial use because of all of the on-site.
But I would think, they it was a small little bakery in town. It burnt down.
Mhm.
And the town, I'm sure the town was like, please don't go anywhere.
Sure,
We
they're a
want you.
huge asset.
They're a destination type place. But the baker they put in, it
it off the main street.
Gotcha, so they just moved it to a place.
And they don't have enough parking.
No, they do not. Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm sorry to infringe on your meeting, but like looking at some of those different things, if I owned a little strip center or something, I wouldn't want my strip center to have a nail salon, a spa, like all of those different businesses that only last 3-4 years sometimes at most. I would want to get those ones that I sign a 10-year lease and I go away because they're going to be there for 10 years and ready to sign lease number 10. I mean,
Well, you don't know if a business is gonna be there.
We have nail salons in Swickley that have been there for 20 years.
Yeah.
but the probability is what
I
I'm
know what
saying.
you're
If you're
So,
pushing
I
that
get
way,
it. I mean, these are the types of uses that are allowed in the downtown that are appropriate for walkability, for bringing people in and out of your downtown. If there are things, this is a process up to you, if there are things you don't like. But one thing zoning we can't do is, obviously, has nothing to do with leases and, that kind of thing. So we're not only allowing day spas, we're allowing a wide variety of different uses. So as a building owner, you can decide who you want to lease to and not. But you have the opportunity to lease to a spa, to lease to a retail store, to lease to a small restaurant. That's up to you. So we are putting together, the point of this process is to put together an appropriate amount of uses and types of uses for a downtown, so that you're not limiting things that would be appropriate, and you're not allowing things that wouldn't be appropriate, and then it would be up to the building owner to lease to whom they want.
okay.
So just because we're allowing a day spa doesn't mean I'm telling you you have to rent to a day spa.
The use chart is also like a phone book, Joe.
Yeah, this
It's
is
not-
very,
yeah, it
this
isn't
is
just
really,
this.
this was
Okay.
just to give you an idea. We're gonna go through the use chart in a
Right.
minute. This is just I didn't wanna put 20 uses on
Here's
there.
Yeah.
dozens.
Okay.
Yeah, so save your question, like, once you see that, you might feel better. So then, looking at perhaps businesses that don't support the goal of building up your downtown, that still are appropriate in other areas of a community, just not in a downtown, would be things like wholesale, industrial uses, auto-oriented uses, and again, that's because you usually have cars coming in and out, getting worked on. Car washes, you have, coming in and out. Drive-throughs are usually not permitted by right in a downtown. There are some exceptions, but generally, they're not allowed. Kennels, funeral home, Joe talked about that with me. He was surprised to see that. Again, this doesn't mean we can't allow these things if they're appropriate for Bridgeville, because I know you have one.
Doesn't it seem like every small town has a funeral home?
Yeah.
See, that's how I correlate
It's
it
just
to that.
the amount of traffic and the fact that you have all the people kind of leaving at one time,
Yeah.
and those people aren't really using other businesses while they're there for one purpose. So that's the only reason. But again, these are just a sampling of things. This isn't the end all be all. Just to get your mind thinking about, because you currently allow so much in your downtown, there really are things that are more appropriate and less appropriate for a downtown area.
Well, and again, stuff that's already existing, funeral homes, whatever,
Will be
will be
grandfathered.
grandfathered in
Correct.
until,
Until it's abandoned.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So just because we wouldn't allow, let's say we would take funeral home off the use chart for the downtown business district, the current one could continue to operate, and they could expand to a certain extent. There's a certain percentage that you can expand your use. They could sell the funeral home to somebody else to operate as a funeral home. The only way that it would revert back to having to conform to the new regulations would be if it's abandoned for a year or more. So nobody has used it and.
well, what happens if somebody they sell it, somebody else buys it and decides to move it someplace else in town that has, more space or whatever?
It would have to be allowed in the space that they're moving it to.
Right, but I mean, at that point in time, the building is no longer used as a funeral home.
Correct, so it would have to, if it stays that way for a year without being used as a funeral home, whomever moves in next would have to conform to the zoning regulations that are in place. Okay, any other questions about uses?
I do have, I have a question.
Before we move on to Joe.
I mean, do we know, especially since COVID, do we know any retail trends that are occurring? I mean, do we know
Yeah.
the,
Trends are that retail is not as popular as it was before
and
COVID.
do we know what retail is popular at this time? That's
So,
popular?
and according, like it was in some of Todd's report as well, small boutique and entrepreneurial type retail that's unique, that you can't find everywhere. For instance, again, I keep talking about my community because it's where I live. There's a small yarn shop that's very popular, that's been there for a long time and gets a lot of foot traffic. There are probably 5 small women's clothing shops that are privately owned with the type of clothing that's in there you don't find at the mall. There's a small bookstore, a small shoe store, again, kind of things that you don't find when you're at like the malls or the larger Walmart, Target.
You're talking Sewickley.
Mhm. Yeah, so entrepreneurial type, smaller businesses that provide unique goods are still growing. Restaurants are still popular in downtowns, especially if you have a non-chain, again, entrepreneurship, something that is unique, a type of food that isn't found everywhere else. But restaurants and then personal services are still being used. So even though they might have the turnover, but usually a new one comes in. So, people still need to get their hair done, their nails done, like going to the spa, the massages, that kind of thing is still popular. And then also looking at office space, smaller office space. If you look at downtown Pittsburgh, there are those big office buildings, you do see a lot of vacancies, but smaller accountants, small law offices, that kind of thing are still growing, well, maybe not growing, but still holding their own within smaller business districts. And again, I talked about this earlier, but allowing those apartments to be on second floors, and with smaller, older downtowns, that comes with the obstacle of the buildings usually are older, and when you have to bring those up to code, it's very expensive. Especially with ADA, a lot of times you have to provide elevators if it's on an upper floor and that kind of thing. So it is very expensive to develop, but if you are able to do it and get people to move into your downtown, then often businesses and retail restaurant will follow because there's a core amount of people there that can use those services.
When I was living in Maryland had a number of new development with live work situations.
Yeah, and that's becoming popular after the pandemic.
Right, okay.
Is people are now able to work from home a lot more than what they were, so they don't have to live right near. And that was happening in Warren when we were working there. There were several families that during the comprehensive plan, and not because of the comprehensive plan, but during our planning process, we were talking to people, and there were a number of families that had moved to Warren because they liked the outdoor activities with the National Forest and the river. And their headquarters were in California and Texas, but they didn't have to be there because they can remote in. So Warren's issue was providing a reliable internet connection to be able to allow that. But if that's something to market, and to look at for your downtown, is to encourage that live work situation.
Are all of them, I mean, I'm sure not all of them, but how, because, I've seen them from Virginia Beach all the way up to New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Do we know what makes them a successful mix?
Makes what?
The live works at communities? I mean, does it?
So you have the core services that, they can walk to a restaurant, they can walk to
It's a neighborhood, in
a
other
coffee
words.
shop, it's a neighborhood. You already have, some of those things. You have some restaurants, you have the coffee shop, which is very successful. You have the library, which isn't on your main street, but
Right.
it's close by. You have park spaces. So those are things, people are looking for quality of life. So they don't have to live next to where they're working. So similar to the Warren situation, the people that we talked to that moved in there were interested in that outdoor recreation, and the fact that Warren does have a downtown too,
Yeah.
that it struggles as well, but still has the restaurants, the coffee shop, the breweries.
Mhm.
Breweries are big. So it's looking at those quality of life factors that you can provide in a downtown to help encourage people to move in, and that's especially young professionals and even seniors, people that are looking to age in place, that don't want to take care of their large home anymore, could move into a smaller apartment but have that walkability where they can get the things that they need within walking distance of their apartment. So we can just leave that there because we'll go on to that. So I wanted to talk about the use chart. So this is your existing, under the land use column on the left. Those are all of the existing uses that are permitted within your mixed use business district or commercial district. And then in the middle column, that's whether they're permitted by right or conditional use. A conditional use is still a permitted use, but they need to go before a hearing at council before they can be approved, and there are usually additional conditions that have to be met before they are approved. And then the notes column on the right, that's where I had some notes, primarily things I was suggesting be removed from the list. There are a couple that might have been permitted by right that I note that maybe should be considered using a conditional use. But just looking at the ones that I have considered removing, assisted living facility. So I had that for all of the, because I think there's, the independent living I did not, but personal care, boarding homes, like those kind of assisted living, boarding home facilities, I was considering removing from your downtown, just because of usually the amount of space they take, and also, those are folks that are pretty sedentary, that they're not getting out to use your business district. But, these are all just suggestions, so I want to get thoughts on that. So for those types of facilities, thoughts on allowing or removing them from the downtown?
We just want to start at the top and.
Yeah, we'll start at the top of assisted living, and then it also relates to personal care boarding homes that are a little bit further down.
Yeah. I think it makes sense to remove that from downtown.
Any objection?
Steve's thinking. Which one?
Assisted
First
living.
one.
Yeah, I'm okay removing it.
Again, they're still allowed close by to your
Right,
downtown,
right.
within the mixed use
Just one block
district.
back.
Just one block back. And again, you're looking to
Be
allow
vibrant.
more vibrant uses downtown that are generating foot traffic and people, and those types of uses really are not, except for maybe the workers might pop out for lunch or something, but you have a limited amount of people working in those. And again, and visitors too, but the use itself just seems to fit better outside of The next is automobile service stations, so again, those are the auto-related, that's one of the auto-related uses, so, you know, a service station, they're working on cars, even though you can make them do it inside. But again, it's not usually the vibrant, walkable kind of use that you see in a downtown.
Would that include gas stations too?
Yeah, I believe, let me check your definition. But I believe that includes gas stations. And you do see those sometimes in a downtown, but normally that's.
Yeah, that is a
the use
gas
that-
station, because like the repair shop is a vehicle repair garage.
Okay,
Yep.
so, yeah, that's the gas station. So again, people coming in and out, like moving in and out pretty quickly, like getting gas and coming back out, and it takes up valuable space in your downtown.
Move. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go over the ones that I had considered removing, and then we can talk about any of the others. Car wash, same reason. The catering service, it is permitted by right. I had considered making it a C just because it has the rental hall, so that could be a bigger kind of use with more traffic, but again, that could go either way, and I'm okay with. And if it is a catering service, you know, there's gonna be trucks going in, filling up, coming out, to take probably off-site for catering.
Unless it's a restaurant.
Unless it's a restaurant, because it could have a rental hall with it, so it could be right there.
You used to see people, this was like a pandemic thing, asking for commercial kitchens that didn't want to
Oh.
have a restaurant or even a takeout
Right.
business, but just wanted a commercial kitchen
Commercial kitchen.
that they can do
Sure.
private catering out of.
Yeah,
So it really didn't add to, it was kind of a light industrial kind of
Yes.
aspect when you do it that way.
for sure. Yeah.
But that was a big trend 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I would consider making that conditional.
Yeah, I
What-
agree.
What does everybody else think?
I think it should be considered a condition. See,
And could you make a condition that it does have to have a public operation, so that it isn't just,
so it isn't just in and
A
out, like
factory.
a factory, yeah.
Say that again, Joe?
as a matter of condition, make it so that it is like a business open to the public and not just a food factory?
like PJ's,
Okay.
right?
Correct, the PJs would be the ideal business that you'd want to see,
Right.
yes.
Okay. So we'll make that a C. Commercial recreation, I had considered removing because those are usually, let me see how you,
Could be like a bowling alley or?
well, the bowling
Rock
alley,
wall.
So what's,
let's see, there was a reason in the definition.
commercial recreation?
Axe throwing?
That's where my daughter is right now.
Dishwashing places.
Outdoor jump park?
Yeah.
Is that-
Yeah.
That's what I would think.
Sorry, it's somewhere else in your definition. So it's an indoor or outdoor recreation facility which is operated as a business for profit, open to the general public for a fee, including to but not limited to parks, playing fields, swimming pools, tennis centers, skating rinks, bowling alleys, pool halls, miniature golf, driving ranges, fitness centers, and similar facilities. So some of those would make sense maybe in the downtown, but not all of
I mean,
them.
like
Like,
a
what-
really
what-
yoga
what axe
studio.
Yeah, that would be that would be
Is that different?
Or
personal,
escape
so we
room.
put that under like personal service.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be bad.
I mean, what's that, I mean, what would those?
So make it conditional?
I'd make it conditional, but you could also, by doing sizes, you can, it would limit to like I say, yeah, I don't care if somebody puts if you, like a shooting range, well, if you have a size limitation on it, it'll dictate whether you put a shooting range or a bowling alley or.
And there is a successful bowling alley in Lawrenceville in their main district. So,
Yeah, exactly.
it just is a matter of if it fits. So if you make it conditional, they have to come to a hearing, they have to put forth their plans.
Yeah,
You can put
I
conditions
think
on
it's
it.
conditional.
Because there are some of these things that would be okay in a downtown.
I mean, that's the other thing, like, we, axe throwing's like kind of neat and stuff right now, but in 10 years,
It's
it's an axe
probably
throwing.
bad, but,
What?
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
probably bad, but,
Yeah.
you never know. Pickleball is a fad and it seems to be just growing and growing and growing. So you don't know what's gonna take off. And, an indoor axe throwing facility in your downtown is not a bad thing.
No.
And in Erie, they just opened an indoor climbing wall and
Right.
there on one of their main streets. So things like that make sense, and they do bring excitement and people
Right.
that will use, because you go do that and then you want to get something to eat.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you should like make it.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we can make it a conditional use and then put some limitations on. Commercial school, I had considered removing again, if it's a smaller, something might be okay, but I just wanted to discuss that.
So what if you have like a, I don't know, a school?
A beauty school?
What's that?
A beauty school?
Well, you get beauty school, cooking school, or a space where it's almost like it has classes for a multitude of different things. Almost like a learning space where hey, we have a space here and, so-and-so's coming in to teach, some sort of class for this, and then next week there's gonna be another class for something else, but like
Yeah, so
We have
those-
educational studio that's a defined use.
that's,
So maybe we.
Because the karate studio is an educational studio.
Okay.
And I think it fit into like crafts and stuff,
Right.
go into that use group.
Yeah, so, the definition for your educational studio
It would lay out examples.
Is- an establishment that provides training to individuals or groups in specialized recreational activities or avocations, including but not limited to dance, gymnastics, martial arts, photography, music, arts and crafts, and similar. So the cooking school, I don't know that, because it kind of is geared towards recreational activities, avocations.
like say you're doing, hey, we're
But
gonna
you
go
could
down,
add cooking school
so-and-so's
to
coming in
that
to teach you how to make pasta or make
Right,
wine,
right. Or that place up in Green Tree, what's that, Crate?
Crate, yeah, Crate does, they have cooking
Yeah.
classes and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But you can also go there and buy stuff, you
Right.
can culinary, you can buy pots and pans.
But Pittsburgh Pottery fits into this.
yes,
right now.
fits
Right.
into that educational studio. So maybe we leave that one and remove the commercial school. And I did not recommend removing the educational studio.
So we're gonna remove, commercial school,
That's the discussion right now.
okay? Other thoughts,
Wait, sorry,
comments?
what is commercial school again?
So the commercial school is a privately operated, for-profit establishment providing technical or skilled training, vocational or trade educational courses or programs.
That's like your barber school.
So it's usually a larger operation, where people are going to get a degree in something. Versus like just going to learn how to cook or make pottery. The commercial school is more of like a degree.
Exactly. Tech school.
Also adult learning facilities that people go back to school to get some sort of education.
and if we make it conditional, we could make it always come back.
No,
No.
conditional essentially is permitted, it's just
It's
you gotta
permitted, you just
jump,
gotta meet the, you jump through
Okay.
hoops.
you gotta go through a couple of hoops, but you really can't deny it. They
Okay.
meet the requirements of the
If they meet the
condition.
requirements, if they
Okay.
don't, then you can say no.
Yes,
But
but
if they come in and they meet all your requirements, yes, Joe's right. It's a
Okay.
permitted use, it's just permitted with conditions.
that's it.
So, what's on the table right now is removing commercial school and then having educational studio cover those
Okay.
classes that
I
would.
I agree with that.
Yeah. Makes sense.
The next one that is under the consider removing was daycare or preschool, and you might think, yeah, that would be okay in a downtown. The issue is with pickup and drop off. In your downtown, that can get a little
the one that's done off of, off Painters Run Road, going out, Kelso.
Godfrey, Godfrey.
What's that?
Oh, Godfrey,
A good dollar.
Goddard,
God, I mean, that thing's massive.
yeah.
I mean, that's like a,
Don't go there at 5 o'clock.
yeah, exactly.
Is our
They'll
goal to
have
get
your
through
whole-
these by 7?
Your whole
So-
Main Street.
I don't think we're gonna get through all of them by 7.
I think we just started at 6, it's
Okay.
just because we knew it was gonna take longer.
Okay.
Oh, so we can go past it, 7?
We just advertised it, planning
Okay.
commission starts at 6.
Okay.
Okay, then so we're good.
We're golden.
We can be here all night.
No, we can't.
Yeah,
No.
okay, no party.
We get to the ends.
So you okay with the removal of daycare?
Yeah.
We define preschool in conjunction with the church separately as well. So I think that's worth noting, because we do have a preschool that operates within the church on Main Street.
Right.
And in conjunction with the church, as it's defined, I don't think it takes away from what you're trying to achieve. Maybe just take note of that.
So, if it is a daycare operating in an active church, I would consider the daycare an accessory use to the primary use of the church.
Yes.
And these are all just primary uses that we're talking
Okay,
about right now.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just to make that clarification, because that's a good point, Joe, because I didn't talk about that earlier. This use chart is your primary uses. So in zoning, you have primary and accessory uses. So your primary use is the main use, what's happening on the property most of the time. An accessory use would be something that is accessory to the primary use. So what Joe was just talking about is a good example. If a church would have operated daycare part-time, that they're primarily a church offering services. The primary use is the church, the daycare is an accessory use. So the accessory uses aren't on this chart, we'll talk about those separately. The next one under consider removing is the funeral home, but that's open for discussion. Again, that's not one that is like, I would really think you have to get rid of it. But just because of, especially when services are happening, the amount of cars coming out and in, and the folks that are usually at the funeral home are there for that specific event, and then moving on, they're not, out and about in downtown
Well,
usually.
they take up a fair amount of real estate too.
Yeah,
they're big.
yeah. And they need a lot of parking for a short amount of time.
What do we, I don't know, what do we think?
And it's currently a conditional use, so you can, and you may have, I didn't check all of your conditional.
I mean, there's one already on the street.
There's several on this, well,
Pond Bridgeville's only one.
And the fact that you do have one, I don't know that you want like a bunch more coming in on your main street, but
One down in Grenada, there's one that referred to. It's nice.
I never viewed it as a bad thing.
right.
I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem. I don't think people, especially in Bridgeville.
So, we leaving it?
I think we should remove it.
You sure of it?
Yeah.
that,
And look at the space, yeah.
Does take up a lot of space. And doesn't, I mean, it's like, we have a funeral home. People are, anybody's gonna invest to put in a funeral home. We're not gonna, it'll be like a Slater's going for a nice big piece of property on a main drag somewhere. Yeah, they're not gonna say, let's sandwich in between two buildings and try to see what we can.
Here's the thing too, is that, you look at that crematorium up on 19,
Yeah,
that would be considered
yeah.
used.
so, yeah, the crematorium is separate from
Okay.
a funeral home. Usually, I have to check your full use table, but usually, the funeral home, it will say no crematorium
It's in the conditions.
conditions.
Because
That's
we
what I was
define
just
pet
checking.
crematorium, but crematorium for funeral homes is in the conditions.
chocolate over there, you might need it, might be faster to persuade me.
What do you mean high-tech industries, like chip making or?
Yeah, that could fall into it. Your definition is the assembly of component parts or the production of finished products, excluding any process that involves toxic or highly volatile substances. So this would include computer components and accessories, electrical parts, accessories and equipment, lab apparatus, robotics, optical instruments, precision instruments, surgical, medical, dental instruments and supplies, so on. So this is, a true light industrial use.
Yeah.
So again, usually those aren't on your main street, but
I don't see any reason
What are we
why.
talking about right now?
We're looking at high-tech
high-tech
industries.
So, we go back, what's group care facilities different than assisted living facilities?
So group care, those are a protected class too.
Group care,
They are, let me read your definition.
So
A
it's-
dwelling or premises used as supervised long-term group living arrangement. Persons who meet the definition of mentally or physically handicapped, and so forth. So they're protected. So I don't think you have to allow them in your downtown. You have to allow them everywhere you allow single-family homes.
which is what we have.
But I don't think single-family homes are allowed currently in your mixed use. So it's not something that has to be there
Yeah, they're allowed in the overlay within the mixed use, because there's an overlay district
for
for
that
mixed use
Baldwin Street
that
area.
would allow that. So
Yeah.
that's what makes this, we always get focused on one thing, but you realize that red zone is
It's
very
huge.
big. It's
Yeah, we're
huge.
just talking about
Right.
a small
Correct.
portion. So,
Right.
that is something you could consider removing from the downtown because it is allowed in the rest of that red area,
Pretty much
which we
everywhere else
have.
in town.
So,
And it really would be hard for it to locate in the downtown because they're usually in single-family homes.
going back one more to grocery store,
Mhm.
what's to keep you from, Giant Eagle?
Again, it's
It's
dimensional
size.
tests, yeah. And grocery stores are usually very, if you can get one and get one to be successful, they're very beneficial
Right.
for a downtown.
Yep, absolutely.
Especially if you want people to live downtown. So the group care, that is a good point, I didn't have a note there, but thoughts on that?
Well, if it's permitted elsewhere in the mixed use, why don't we eliminate it from the
Yeah.
main
Yeah.
street?
All right, so then that brings us back to the high-tech industries. There are usually things too that are happening inside, so you don't always know what's going on, which, could be, it's not like it's a heavy industrial use with smoke flying out of smokestacks. But usually your downtown is for your core
Right.
retail,
I would say
restaurants.
that if there's space, if there's enough room, like with the group care facilities, if there's other areas
Yeah, and so you
that are,
have all of this
better
back here that would
accommodate.
better accommodate. And
Yeah.
they usually need larger facilities anyway, so it'd be hard for them to locate in a downtown business district unless they bought a lot of property and demolished and built something new, which is not necessarily what you want to encourage either.
I would remove that.
Hospitals for the same reason, just, now, I don't know that you have,
What do you consider MedFirst? Is that a medical
so
facility?
you have medical clinics, which I
That's
would
the
say leave them,
And that's a conditional use.
that's a conditional use,
Okay.
so I would leave those in the downtown. The hospitals are obviously larger
Right,
facilities
yeah.
that I don't think would be
Sort of,
appropriate,
yeah,
or would want to locate
Right.
downtown.
right. So the chances of them wanting,
The chances of you getting a hospital anywhere are low,
right,
but, especially in your downtown, they're gonna wanna have more space.
A little while back, didn't he want to move up to Main Street?
Well, I wasn't on it. Maybe it didn't before me, I don't remember.
I remember
that
that.
there when I was on planning.
Southwood, didn't they wanna move where Southwood is?
No, I thought they wanted to take at the back, and they wanted to put
Is it a surgery center or?
No, Chartier's,
Mental,
yeah,
health, Church's mental health.
yeah,
They have counseling rooms.
right. But didn't they do like overnight stays and stuff, or I thought they wanted to,
Well, they haven't, they moved into up on top of the hill, up off Emerson.
okay,
They took over a big office complex up there, and they have living facilities for them, so.
but that would be considered a hospital though. That'd be more like a
Treatment center.
treatment center, okay. Gotcha. See, that's why we have everybody here. Between all of us, we figure we never think of regional.
So we'll remove hospital?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Kennel, I would consider removing again in your downtown. You might not, probably not the most appropriate place for a kennel. They usually have outdoor runs too associated with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Light manufacturing, similar to the high-tech industries.
Yeah, remove.
Laundromat, yeah, well, yeah, you want that.
Laundromat I left on here, but we can talk about that.
Can I just ask, oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
So this would be just what you would think of as a coin-operated laundromat, not the, they're not doing dry cleaning services.
And what happens if they do dry cleaning and laundromat?
I would say they're not
I
allowed.
think you should
I
have
would
both
think
of them.
you'd have a different category for that.
Okay.
But let me read your definition.
Maybe under personal services.
But I think
Let
you
me
should allow
see.
laundromats anyway.
Let me see how you define a
If you're
laundromat.
encouraging people to live in apartments and stuff.
It's nice to have those in your
Yeah.
downtown. I mean, they're not, and you can, the one thing I would say is you might, it's permitted by right, you could consider it a conditional use, and as a condition, put on there, because you're seeing a lot of those uses come into laundromats, the skilled gaming facilities, which aren't always popular in terms of the municipality. A retail business equipped with a number of individual clothes washing machines and dryers, and may include individual dry cleaning machines for use by the public, excluding laundry facilities provided as an accessory use in a multifamily residential building. So a multifamily residential building can have their own
Yeah, I mean,
facilities.
depending upon what's built there,
Yeah.
a lot of those places will have laundry rooms or even have laundry in there.
Yeah. So that would be an
Yeah,
accessory to the multifamily. This is a standalone laundromat. But it says, it does say it may include individual dry cleaning machines for use by the general public. So that's really not like a dry cleaning
Right,
business
right.
where, they're doing huge amounts of dry cleaning. So those, I would say, I would leave in the downtown, again, to service people living in the downtown.
Yeah.
The next one on the list was nursing homes similar to the assisted living facility reasoning,
The
and
light
the same with
manufacturing?
personal boarding care.
The light manufacturing?
I thought we were taking that off.
Okay, yeah,
Okay. Sorry.
but that will still allow Shaw.
They'll be allowed to remain because they're a legal use now.
Right.
So the next was the nursing and the personal care homes to consider removing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
We have there's places we already have
right.
areas for it, and
So the next one, there was pet crematorium. That is more of an industrial use.
I don't think if we're sticking to resident,
We have two on the
Right.
street.
right.
You have
One,
two where?
two on Main Street.
already.
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
one is in like
You
a
have
vet,
two?
yeah, one's like in with like a vet, so it kind of
Sure.
fits. The other one It's just a house that they turned into a pet crematorium.
Wow.
And the house has no signs, no foot traffic.
So you don't
Essentially
know
took
what's
a,
happening, so we don't.
no,
No.
they essentially took a single family house and made it into a pet crematorium.
Huh,
And
interesting,
really, it wasn't the best use of property on the main
right,
street.
on the main street.
And the
That's what I'm
neighbors
thinking.
didn't accept it very well.
Right.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they're not happy.
But it doesn't create any odors or
It's not
noises.
like, yeah, there's not.
But you have them bring dead animals around.
Right, it's coming in and out.
And you
You have
see it.
You have to bring them, yeah, yeah. So that is the reason why I would recommend removing from your downtown.
It'll still be allowed everywhere else, it's just
Right.
not there.
Not there, and the ones that are there can remain.
Yeah.
We okay with removing that?
Yeah.
We okay with moving that?
Yes. So then on page 2, on the back, planned business development, that is more of, see if I can just define it. A commercial development in which the building, streets, walkways, planted areas, parking, loading, and related activities are integrated and designed in accordance with an overall plan for an entire site under single ownership. So the title is planned business development, but that sort of description there, if you take out commercial and put mixed use, is kind of what was envisioned if anything were ever to happen on the redevelopment site that was identified in the comp plan. That, that would be designed as an entire site with multiple buildings and internal streets and parking. It's just the planned business development kind of threw me there with the name, because that would be encouraging a mixed-use development with housing and non-residential. So that is up for discussion. Leaving it as a conditional use probably is not bad, since you do have that potential area down there adjacent to this building. And it is a conditional use, so they have to come.
Well, again,
And they'd have to put, if it would happen anywhere else, they'd have to, again, buy buildings, knock them down, and bring a plan to the borough. So that's the only, like, we have that one site that we don't want to encourage it,
Right.
like in other areas.
well, and again, I mean, space, if we put it as a conditional use, then we could, again, limit the size of square footage or whatever, but
Could a condition also be between cross streets, like between Bible Road and the Collier border? Couldn't that be a condition?
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be
you
easy.
could put that on there for sure.
That way.
everybody okay with that?
The next one that had a note was the public recreation is permitted. I was considering making it a C, because it included swimming pools, tennis courts, playing fields, in addition to like small playgrounds. So I was just thinking making it a C, but again, it's
But the chances that you have a playground on Washington Avenue are
small. And with the, I know the traffic, we wanted to go slow and have foot traffic, but it also probably isn't the safest
Right.
place for a playground.
But if somebody, I mean, if this was developed so that it is live work, you would still be able to tell the developer, okay, we need a little pocket park there, or.
So you have public open space as a separate
Okay,
use, which is
Okay.
permitted, and I think we should leave.
okay, all right. All right.
So that would, I think, would be more of what
Okay.
that would be. So the recreation, are we considering removing it?
Well, if it's public recreation, isn't it the town's, you're not asking them about a business, right?
It's operated by a governmental agency, so that primarily would be the municipality.
So you take it off, but if we decide we want to do it, then Bridge will just do it, right?
essentially.
Well, yeah, you change your zoning.
Or just, okay, you know what I'm saying?
You really shouldn't do it if it's not allowed.
But if you decide in the future and say, this makes sense to do it,
Right.
then whoever is in council in 10 years can sit there and say, this is what we wanted.
Yeah.
So,
So what's the verdict on that?
Make it a C?
see.
Yeah.
Research and development is another one of those light industrial type uses, so I was considering removing that one.
You know, having been in a high-tech area, I don't see where there would be, number one, the space
Right.
to do something like that.
Again,
because-
it would be a situation where they'd have to buy multiple
Correct.
properties and knock them
Right.
down and build something
Right.
new, which is not.
And that was a great economic boom for Montgomery County, to have all these tech companies come in.
Look at Lawrenceville.
And, yeah, and hope,
But
if they
still,
want to
it
have
takes more
more
than,
appropriate spaces
Right.
to put
Right.
those.
it would take more than just this.
Yeah.
So we're gonna remove it.
The next one to consider removing was swimming pools.
Oh, no Cabana Beach?
What about the bathhouse?
A bathhouse, there we go.
Wait, would that be,
That's an indoor.
wherever the yoga studio would go, that could be a bathhouse too, right?
The next
What is a
couple-
yoga studio? Would that be considered recreation?
So that I would consider a personal service, or educational what was that?
Educational
studio, yeah.
Okay, so we're removing, swimming pools?
Yes.
Could be on a beach.
And then the next couple are all vehicle related, the sales, services, rental, and repair.
When there's other places in the community that will accept it without a problem.
I mean, there's other areas in the community where it would be allowed.
Right,
Everywhere else in the community, so
right.
pretty much.
Well, not in
Oh,
single family
I think
residence.
that's that, yeah.
Okay. I did leave vet clinic in there.
Yeah.
That can be up for discussion too. But I did leave that one alone, but.
And that we can limit by size.
Yeah.
We could make it, I would make it a C.
Yeah,
Vet clinic, a C.
yeah.
And then put some limitations on the size.
Medical clinic is already a conditional use, so a C,
Yeah.
so it seems
Yeah.
logical that
Seems
they
logical
match.
to leave a vet clinic
Yeah,
too.
it's like if I was a dog, I can go get a permit tomorrow, but the
But if you're a person,
no,
you cannot.
you have to go to
You
planning
have to go
commission.
to a hearing.
I think that makes a lot
So-
of sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense.
Fluffy can just go do what he wants. And then the last ones are the warehouses, wholesale, business and distributors, so those again, more industrial type uses.
I would consider removing those.
Yeah.
So in your review of this, hopefully you had a chance to look at it before the meeting, is there anything that isn't on the list that you think should be allowed in downtown?
I had a couple that I've run into that
Yeah.
aren't defined.
Perfect.
Pharmacy is lumped in with retail store, and that causes issues with medical marijuana dispensaries, and we don't define a dispensary. It falls into what a pharmacy would be with retail stores. So essentially, dispensaries are permitted.
Are permitted.
And that kind of goes into the line where it's kind of, it'd be nice to have that clear, and I
So,
think it should be up for placement, because we have cheap rents, so we attract vape shops, and I get a lot of attraction from medical marijuana, people calling. So it doesn't seem logical that we don't want to go through all this work to invest in Main Street, and we just fill up vacant storefronts with
with
vape shops and
and
dispensaries.
So what I would recommend for that is that definition of retail be specific to exclude medical marijuana dispensaries, perhaps vape shops, but then you have to add them to your use chart and allow them somewhere else.
Sure, you could allow it in an industrial
So,
area.
yeah, so that would entail doing a little bit bigger of an amendment to this process, because we'd have to touch on sections of the ordinance outside of the downtown business district, which is fine, but we would just write the amendment to address those additional sections as well.
Yeah.
So that would be my suggestion, is to amend the definition of retail, exclude the uses that you just talked about, and then include them in the use table and allowing them in other areas of the borough.
So you're taking them out of the mixed use?
No, out of the downtown.
Downtown.
I think the dispensary should be out of the mixed use, so that it's just not encouraged to be anywhere else.
So which district would
It's
you
just-
put it in?
Could you just do an industrial? 'Cause
Industrial, yeah.
It's most
Yeah,
restrictive.
yeah. 100%.
And
But just-
where would the pharmacies, going back to you?
I think, in my opinion, pharmacies should stay within Main
Stay
Street.
Yeah,
within
I
Main Street.
agree.
Yeah, so we wouldn't exclude them.
Okay.
But
Exclusion
define
could be for more.
the
Okay.
dispensary that it isn't a pharmacy.
Isn't a pharmacy,
Oh,
so
okay.
we need
All
a
right.
new definition for a medical marijuana dispensary to specifically define it separately from
Yeah.
a pharmacy. And then we'd have to include it in your use table and allow it in your industrial zone. So we can do that.
When you talk about pharmacies, when they do compounding, is that still considered pharmaceutical or pharmacy, or?
I think that there is a definition on compounding. I don't deal with it very often, but it does, there is something that does
Okay.
reference that. And then regarding vape shops, I'd like to recommend that there is a limit on vape
When
shops.
they do vape shop?
What's the difference between, like, we have a place that sells cigars?
Correct, and that's where my question's coming from, is not so much the cigar, but I guess it's one and the same, is that the traditional vape shop that's in the tattoo studio, okay, on
Yeah.
Washington Avenue. Across the street from it, in what used to be Omega Learning, it is gonna be a vape shop. Like, the fellow already got a building permit, and it's going through, so you're gonna have two vape shops across the street from each other. And then I had a phone call about a medical dispensary that's would want to be, or a marijuana dispensary within that same block, and then you have the other one. I'm thinking, this is not the red light district, it's gonna be the green light district.
Like,
It's ridiculous. So, but it would be nice, it doesn't make sense for us to dedicate these hours of our lives
Right.
if that's what we're going to get. And it's just because we have cheap rent. And we want to make sure that this is enticing, so that when this whole evening started about what defines a healthy Main Street,
Right.
and we went through that, we have data, we have statistics that entrepreneurship is what will make a healthy Main Street
Unique.
and unique,
Offer.
and that's what can make this flourish. And we need to find a way that these attractive rents make these people sustain, and this makes a Main Street that's sustainable to that versus just cheap rent, easy bucks attracting puff shops. So,
I mean, didn't we already have that place down in Norwood closed, that marijuana? Isn't there a place down
oh,
there?
it was a
CBD store,
CBD shop.
shop?
Yeah, they were there for 5 minutes.
yeah, but now we're getting to the
I
point
know.
where the state's
Right.
gonna potentially
Yeah.
discuss legalizing this.
Right.
you know, so-
Yeah.
So, who knows when that will be, if it will be, but it's
Right.
coming more closer.
So back with, like, what's the difference between selling, a cigar shop, like they have down by, well, we have one, they sell cigars here.
Correct.
What's the difference between selling cigars and selling vape products?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tricky one to
Yeah.
kind
It's like, hey, you can
of,
buy,
yeah, you can sell cigars but not vape.
yeah,
But like down on places like sells like, this is almost Greek to me, so excuse my ignorance. It's like sells bongs and pipes.
no, I know,
You know, and
well,
like stash things.
I hear you,
Yeah.
It's just legally, what can we do?
yeah, they sell, paraphernalia, but the whole, it's just no tobacco.
Sure, and you want some liberties in a retail area, it's just that you don't want
So
some.
what we,
crossing
Joe and
each
I,
other.
what we talked about, you know, on our phone call that we had, in terms of, you know, the vape shops and that kind of thing, you can limit them by not allowing so many within so many feet of each other, so you're not getting a whole strip. So you may get one, but then that's it because the, geographic
We want to keep them
limitations.
right there next to each
So
other.
the geographic limitations means that then another one can't come into your downtown because there's no
Sure.
space.
What would be like an acceptable minimum? Like if a block is hypothetically 500 feet.
Yeah,
If
so
you
I say
said-
1,000 feet.
Correct, okay. And that wouldn't be,
That's not illegal.
1 per 5,000 people.
I've never
Or
seen
one
that. I've never
5,000
seen that, but I have seen
So
the
it's
limitation
like
of
anywhere.
you can't
But
live
one.
within 1,000 feet of another one.
Like 5,000 feet away, and stuff there.
So that would be my suggestion for that.
and that would be fair, you know, that really would be fair. It's just when you have them, like,
Yeah.
it's just,
So then you're not being exclusionary,
No,
but
you
you are
don't want to be.
limiting.
you just don't want all of the storefronts being
Right, you
vape
don't want
shops.
5 of them in a row,
No.
you know, so,
So those are my only notes.
yeah, for sure, thanks,
Okay, so
Joe.
Joe, you said cheap rents, now my brain is going to pawn shops and check cashing places. Where would they fall into?
Retail. I mean, you are limited in, again, legally what you can do, but you can limit things by, like what we just talked about, like within so many feet of someone. So if there are other uses that are undesirable, we can talk about it, and then I'd like to get the solicitor in on the conversation. If we start naming like 500 things, then,
Can you limit, like, how many, like, what's the one rule for, there's a couple different businesses, like junkyard, like strip joints, that you only allowed to have like one in an industrial
it's
Or-
usually they're limited by they can't be within 1,000 feet or some number of another one.
but you're only allowed, like, it's almost like there's like 3 of them, or when I took the government classes and they're talking about zoning, it's like, you're allowed to have 1 out of 3 in an industrial park, but like, pick one.
I've never heard that.
It's something weird, it's a weird law,
So
and-
I'd ask your solicitor about that. I've never heard that.
and it's like, can you pick like, hey, you're only allowed to have X amount of these types of businesses, so you don't, I don't know if you're allowed to write the rules that way, it's like, sorry, we already have one.
No, I've never heard that. But it could be something, it could be something.
How about these like Thai massage places or strip clubs?
Well, we defined both of those.
So, yeah, those are adult uses.
Right,
And they're
okay.
only allowed in your industrial.
The massage parlor is I think a personal service.
Personal service. So that would be an enforcement issue if they're doing things
Okay,
illegally, like offering,
yeah,
offering illegal services as part of the massage.
Yeah, it's not zoning.
That's not zoning, that's your police. You have to, someone
Okay.
has to report them, the police would have to go and investigate. But adult uses that include like retail stores, strip clubs, those kinds of things, those are in a category of it by themselves because they are legal uses. So those you can limit in zoning, and currently you don't allow those in your mixed use.
Okay.
So I did one other thing I wanted to look at. Sure, eating and drinking establishments. How you define your eating and drinking establishments. A retail business selling food and or drink for consumption on the premises, including bars or taverns, fast service restaurants, and full service restaurants. So fast service restaurants indicate
Take home.
takeout. I would limit, again, when we're talking about the accessory uses, the drive-throughs in your downtown.
So there
What do
was
you,
a,
that's again, what do you consider fast food? Like, is Armstrong's Express
Right.
considered
isn't
fast
there a
food?
conditional use for a drive-through?
So I didn't look at your accessory uses,
I think there may be,
so probably,
like, I don't get that one very often, but I remember seeing some.
yeah, I just have your table of
Mhm.
principle, although I have your full ordinance here. The other thing I was thinking of are, brew pubs are popular in downtowns. Again, they are teetering on the industrial side because they're making the alcohol there, but I have seen those be popular and successful in downtowns. Warren, for
Right.
example, has two.
We wanted the main weekend.
That's not a bad thing for business.
So that's something
Brew
that's not
development,
currently
yeah, what's that?
on your, and again, you
Brew
can limit the
development.
size and the amount
Right.
of product that they are producing. But that's not something that's on here that I wanted to talk about, your thoughts on allowing that as a conditional use. So, any thoughts there on the brew pubs?
For them?
Hmm?
For them?
I figured you would be.
Could you
Well, it's
define
not,
brew
it's
pub
not
on
even that,
size?
it's like, but if you look at,
You can
any
put it
town.
as a in the condition.
Yeah, but why make it hard for someone? Like, if it was like your, you know, Mike's Brew Pub, where he just has a small thing that's equal to what a commercial kitchen is, okay. But if it's like the Heidelberg Brew Pub where they tear down a building and then
Yeah.
just put this huge,
So we can
Again,
put
that's
in,
kind of a
I don't like
different
That's
putting
not what our
regulations.
most called, by the way.
I don't like putting regulations in a definition, but we can if you don't want to make them go through the hoop. I wouldn't do it for everything, but for something like that you just don't want them to go through hoops.
see, because conditional use still is permitted if they just check some additional boxes.
Correct, I just like having the regulations separate from the definition.
Oh, I understand, but I think like in the court of public opinion, a lot of people think conditional uses mean, oh, the borough can say yes or no.
No, as we talked about, they're permitted,
I
right?
know, but
They have to go
but
through,
most people don't realize that.
yeah.
They just see all the hurdles I have to do.
They would, but it is an additional cost for
Yeah.
those businesses because they have to go to the hearing and pay.
I mean, engineers refuse, if there's a lot to it.
If there's those required, yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you wanna just make it permitted and put in the definition, a size restriction? Brew pubs.
Permitted.
I mean, it's bar, restaurant, type, I mean, most of them.
If you
Most
So
of
it's-
them
limit
have-
size.
It's different,
yeah,
a brew pub is different than a bar or restaurant, they're
Yeah.
producing
Right.
alcohol in there.
Well,
So that's why we're gonna making it a separate use.
You could basically write your law, write the zoning to put how much you permit a year.
But what's the negative on a brew pub?
But,
I don't know
you
much, I don't know anything about brew pubs, but I just know
I
that
don't
they
either.
are revitalizing Main Street.
Right.
yeah, I mean, look at
The old
Ambridge
ones.
is,
Uh-huh.
Ambridge has
Yeah, and that's what turned it around.
Off
Yeah,
and
and
on
ju-
one
they
too.
they don't all necessarily have to brew on the premises.
Right.
I mean, what's the one that's over there at Hastings?
That's,
Recon?
Recon, and they're not, that's just a tap house.
Mhm.
Yeah,
They're not
but,
brewing there.
yeah, but I mean, it's, you know, it's a small, that's a, you know, small area with a lot of residential around it and stuff. I mean, they've got restaurant and stuff there, so.
Well, they have a restaurant in that pub. It's
Yeah.
not owned by the same
Right.
place, but. yeah. But
so
you
you
could,
okay making it permitted in
Yeah.
downtown?
Mhm.
Yeah.
because
Any
breweries
other-
are destination places.
Oh, and
People
that-
go to breweries
that
to
is
check out some
like-
breweries.
one of the like shining uses, like when we're talking about how to attract people in a downtown, brew pubs bring people and they spend money. So,
And I would have never thought, like he said, multiple brew pubs actually complement each other.
yeah,
It was
Yeah, 'cause
actually a
people
good thing.
like, hey,
they wanna,
let's
hop
go,
between
yeah,
them,
let's go down to this
Cause they
area of
like trying the
Pittsburgh.
different beers and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're very successful. So we'll add that as a permitted use. Are there any other
What about
uses that aren't on here that we wanna
a
discuss?
winery or, well,
They could-
winery.
You could actually have brew pub, distillery,
All
winery,
together,
all
yeah,
together.
yeah.
They all cover the same.
So it could be like a micro distillery, winery, so it would all be kind of together. I'll get a definition that covers.
If this distillery would be approved.
Mhm.
Because I had a call last week for a distillery in the same place the week before when for a dispensary. So I called the landlord back and I said, did you get confused if that guy wanted to do a dispensary or a distillery?
Yeah.
He goes, no, distillery like whiskey, dispensary is weed, Joe. I'm like, and I'm making sure he knew.
Right.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
And this isn't the last time, like, I'll update this and send it back out, and we can have another, discuss this further once you see the updated table. But I just want to make sure, were there any other uses that were in your mind that aren't on the list but you think should be up for discussion?
What, I think Justine had a good comment before, it's like the post-COVID world, what uses post-COVID were created that aren't on these land use tables that we should be thinking of in the future? Like, do you have any thoughts to that?
Not specifically, I mean, there are the live work, but we're allowing that with
Right.
mixed use in the apartments, and, you allow no impact home-based businesses in every district, so that covers the live work thing.
Like a makerspace.
So that's not COVID related, but that is something also, that I was trying to think of earlier, so thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
And not just a makerspace, but also, where you would have a space where entrepreneurs or business people could go to rent out an office, they don't want to pay for it, and that is kind of related.
Like a business incubator?
Yeah.
That's
Thank you, that was the
incubator,
word.
makerspace.
So that is kind of a post-COVID, the incubator stuff, and also the
Yeah,
makerspace too.
well, incubator
Um,
and makers, well, yeah, they're
But
very
a lot
similar.
of, after COVID, people weren't going into the office as much, and so, but sometimes you can't, you need like a printer, and you need like maybe some high-speed internet that you don't have at home. So again, Warren has one in an old bank building, that is very successful, so people come in and or if they need to meet with a client, they can rent an office space for an hour or two, that they don't want to bring that client to their home, but they can meet with them there. So allowing those incubator spaces in the downtown, I think, is crucial as well. So
Yeah.
that's another one I think we should
Key,
add.
Yeah.
Make that a key. Make that a key.
Mhm.
Now, would you call it an incubator or a makerspace, or does it cover?
So a
both
makerspace
cover?
is a little bit different because you are in there making things. So that's usually more longer term. The incubator, you're in and out, like
Yeah.
you might be there for an hour or two. Some people rent them for long spaces.
Because I know,
But the makerspace, and then you need, usually, it's some sort of studio or something where you're
yeah,
actually.
well, a lot of those, and they're more in an industrial, like a bigger area where you can actually literally rent your space.
Right.
Rent a 10 by 10 cage or whatever.
So they are usually in larger, like the light
Right.
industrial, like the Strip District, for
Right.
instance, in Pittsburgh has a space like
Mhm.
that, that's in an old industrial building that used to be something else, but now is gutted and just is a big maker space. So you have like pottery, and you have like people making jewelry, and you have people doing other things.
There was a call here a year ago for the building across from Lobella Bean that's for rent, for sale, about turning that into a business incubator. And
Okay,
he liked the idea that it was on a bus line and there was a coffee shop across the
Right.
street.
those are two major,
And
Yeah.
I
Pieces.
just don't think, he couldn't, the money, what they were
What?
asking for the space was too high
Didn't
for
work.
him. But there was interest in that space on the avenue as a business
And
incubator because of.
for Warren, they did it, I'm not saying that Bridgeville should do this or would do this, but, the city, or maybe the county, it's a publicly operated, like, public money went into that incubator space. So sometimes, municipalities or counties will do these spaces as a benefit to.
You could probably find, I'm sure there's grants, like work initiative
Correct.
grants for
Correct.
that, that's
So
all over the place.
if Pittsburgh Pottery wanted to do a makerspace, that building would be appropriate, right?
Yeah.
So that's
How do you
another
define
use that
makerspace?
we could.
Like there's like little booths
say you had, you had a,
Like pop-up stores.
kind of
They're not really selling
They're not
from
really
there, they're
selling,
just
they're
making it. They just have the, like,
See,
they
like
have
an
a place
Etsy
for
business.
tools and all this
you
stuff.
know, and you don't, like, you're really good at making something you wanna sell on Etsy.
Stained glass. or-
Stained glass, right? But you don't have the space at your house. You live in an apartment, you know? But so you go and you rent a little area and you store all your stuff and you make it there, then they might have a shipping area, and then you can ship it out to your customers.
So it's similar to the incubator, it's just a different type of
Yeah.
business.
Mhm.
Like the incubator's more office
I understand.
supply and space, that is more art.
But they also have maker spaces where or like an incubator where they actually have, it's more on the making stuff. Hey, you can go and they have 3D printers there that you can use
Sure.
at your leisure,
Sure,
stuff like that.
yep. Yeah, that's more of the makerspace stuff. So that's another use we could add in if you want.
I think so. I
I
think
would
it's kind
think
of,
so.
Right.
Yeah,
what's that?
I said, I would think so.
Yeah, because what happens is, say you had something where 100 people are using that space, they're coming to town, they're there
They need
hanging out for
lunch,
the day, they go eat lunch,
They need to stop
they
and
go
get
shop, they go get some
a little
vapes,
supply, they need their
Yeah.
vape, yeah.
Tattoos while they're in
They
the
need a tattoo,
go get tattoos, all in the yard.
they need their haircut, and they need a coffee.
All day.
So at what point does that become light industrial? Or light manufacturing?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, how do you-
there's a fine line between, but it is more individual, like, it's like the entrepreneurial spirit versus like a company.
But
Yeah, I
wouldn't
guess
you
I'm just
regulate
asking,
by
do we have to
condition?
By
define it?
numbers,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
So I can do some research into that. Anything else? Okay, so what I will do is I'll update this table. I'm sorry.
Sorry, so I'm trying to remember, like, when we were talking about the catering before, did we decide that those kitchens, are they included in that?
A commercial kitchen?
A caterer?
Where people are renting out a kitchen to like make product and then.
That's light industrial.
Yeah, so is that included in the,
So I'll do some research on the makerspace to see what else included,
yeah,
because
because that food.
that would be more, yeah, it could be
Yeah.
food, not
Okay.
just art.
Is medical clinic, like, let's just say if I had like a primary care physician's office, like, that's medical
Yeah,
clinic.
yeah.
Like,
Or,
is that-
you don't have office separately.
no,
No.
but maybe,
So,
why is that conditional and not just permitted? What do you see, like,
yeah, so,
typically?
usually clinics, usually offices in a downtown I see as permitted. I have seen clinics be more of a special exception or conditional use. I don't know specifically why, if it's because of, they're doing treatment, more treatment than a doctor's office, you're usually just getting an exam. But I don't know that it's really that detrimental to have it just permitted.
No, I don't,
I don't see, I guess it depends, what I would think is that what kind of people are we looking at living in that particular area?
question too regarding uses, is that if you're defining clinic, like, we had, or have, like, Suboxone clinics. Is there a way that you could regulate Suboxone clinics and put a limit on the distance between the next Suboxone clinic, if you're gonna do that too?
There was a time we had like
There-
how many?
Correct.
Yeah, let me do some research on that too, because I think there was some court cases on that.
Yeah, that was a serious issue that faced the town. We still have like two.
We have a couple, but, we had them, it was like everybody had their own, so you could, it was crazy.
I don't think they add to the downtown because, speaking respectfully, like, you'll see the patients in lines outside the doors, and I think that kind of deters from the feel of the Main Street.
Oh, it definitely, I remember, Chief was telling war stories about,
Yeah.
old Chief.
All right, so, you do allow business and professional offices, which would be doctors and dentists.
Okay.
Then your clinics, doctors, but not hospitalized overnight. A clinic shall consist of offices for members of the medical staff and a series of treatment rooms, including recovery rooms. So they do include offices, but I guess because they have the recovery and
Yeah,
treatment rooms
yeah.
is the difference. But I don't know if that bumps it into the category of needing to be a condition.
Is an exam room considered, would that be the same or is that different?
The medical clinic talks about where patients are examined, diagnosed, and treated.
But can I get examined in a medical office?
Yes.
Okay.
So they're very similar.
Uh-huh.
I think the difference, it seems like, in your ordinance in particular, is that the clinic has more of a treatment and recovery.
Recovery.
Now, is that geared towards the methadone and Suboxone clinics?
So I believe the NPC pulls out methadone, which would also be the Suboxone clinics, as a separate use, but I'm gonna do some research on that.
No,
because that was allowed.
If it is able to be a separate use, could you regulate that off of Main Street,
Correct.
still in the M district?
Correct. Or in an industrial district.
Yeah, I think it's worth for you guys to consider that.
Yes, so I'll do some looking into that, because I do believe you can limit where those go. And you can call those out separately, so it's clear
Mhm.
it's not considered a clinic,
Mhm.
a medical.
Yeah, I think it gets muddy, just like how dispensary was a retail
Correct,
store.
and pharmacies and retail, yes.
What about plasma donation type clinics?
So that would be a medical clinic.
Okay.
So medical clinic, do you want me to make that a P? It's currently a C. So that was a discussion point. we were talking
Like if Dr. Fettigatti wanted to have an office on Main Street, I think that's a nice thing.
So the
He
business
wanted
and
it in front.
professional offices are a P currently. The clinic is a little bit, I think, a step up from an office.
I think a clinic, is the clinic the one with the recovery room?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I would not think you would want
No.
that. in
Look
your-
at Railroad Street.
Right.
I guess that's your example of one on Main Street.
Yeah.
So are we looking at removing medical clinic from the downtown? I'm
I
just
would
leaving that
think,
as a C.
I mean, if it's includes recovery, then it would be, I would like it removed. If it includes recovery.
It does.
Because that's extending out that care.
It's a step up from an office,
Correct.
yes.
So where do things like an acupuncture facility, like which one of these do you go
I would see that would be an business, a professional office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we okay with removing the medical
Be okay
clinic?
with removing medical
Yeah.
clinic?
I mean, it would be like when you go and have your cataracts removed, then you go in the recovery room. Or you have some sort of minor anesthesia.
Plastic surgery.
Right, you go in the recovery room.
But your standard doctor's visit.
Those are permitted in the downtown. Yeah. Dental, eye, medical office. Okay, so I'll update this, I'll do some research on these couple that we discussed, that we need a little bit more information, and get this back out to you. I'll get it back out to you soon, so you have some time to look at it. I also just wanted to talk quickly, in our scope of work, we are scoped to do a meeting or charrette as part of this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about timing of that, and who we might want to invite. And Joe pointed out that there is a business meeting with the chamber here at the municipal building on March 27th. So it would be nice if we had a date before March 27th so that we could announce and have flyers. So I'm thinking an April timeframe for the business meeting. And when I call it a charrette, that's just a fancy word of being more of a working meeting. It would be similar to the focus group that we did with the comprehensive plan. Hopefully we'd get a bigger turnout, but we would be looking at maps, talking about uses with, use tables and, different information for the downtown, like parking, and so we'd have different stations where people could talk about different topics for the, downtown business district, so it'd be more one-on-one, kind of hands-on. So the meeting I would anticipate to last like 2 hours, so it'd be a little bit longer than like an hour focus group. So would we think that this would be better, first of all, the type of folks that we want, and it would be an invitation meeting so that we could keep it at a number that we could manage, and be able to work with the folks. So I would think like business owners downtown, I don't know, are there local developers, like other people? Not really. So pretty much the business community
Like we did for the
for
comp plan.
the focus group, but we'd really try to get some more.
You wouldn't want it to like invite somebody like Burns and Scala or anyway?
I guess I'm just saying, like, we don't have a developer we
Yeah.
work with, but
I'm just
they'd be the only ones really around.
We didn't, where did we see those two women, what meeting? Did they come to one of our meetings? They were from Burns and Scala. They were the realtors. Anyway, okay, I'll think about that.
Oh, realtors could be another group of people
Yeah.
that you would
Yeah.
invite, local realtors.
When are you guys going to Seven Springs?
First week of April.
Burns and Scala would be a good one, because I think the whole success of over there is because of
And
it.
I leave,
And the roots were
I'm
here.
gone after the 14th.
Kind of discussing.
Not that it makes a difference, but.
So, Joe, that was the week of April 1st, you're in Seven Springs?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Okay, so that's the municipal conference. So there's the week of the 7th, because that would fall in before you leave, Justin. So would this be best as an evening meeting, a lunchtime meeting, a breakfast meeting? Thinking about the types of folks, I know the business focus group, we did evening, we still didn't have a great turnout.
Right, right. I mean, the good thing is I think I still have that list from the last time.
I bet the turnout's identical.
Yeah, I would guess so, yes.
So we maybe want to, like you said, invite realtors, invite
Yeah.
Burns and Scala,
And
invite the chamber.
those people from Allegheny County that we met with here,
The folks from the planning division, the
Yeah,
economic development.
yeah,
Are they really involved in that? They're gonna come to the table when we get to
Yeah.
the plan review.
okay, all right.
So I have business owners, Burns and Scala, realtors, chamber. That covers it.
And the 4 business people that'll show up.
So we'll have really hands-on discussions. So are you thinking evening again,
I don't know.
lunchtime?
I would say evening, let's do it at 5.
We do get business owners after.
You don't wanna, I mean, if it's a business, you could do it like right after work. So it's like, all right, we're close up shop, wherever, and then go right to the meeting.
Well, we did it at 5 the last time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, there probably isn't a magic number, it's just
Right.
whatever you all prefer.
Yeah. I'll do it at 5. That way it doesn't cut into most people's days.
So it would be like a 5 to 7.
Yeah.
Sure.
Here in the,
How many people?
Well, it depends on the number of people, so we could ask for RSVPs.
yeah,
But then, so I would think this is not big enough, for what we would hope
But
to
if you
get.
have a slot and you have it at the fire hall,
yeah.
it'll look like.
So look,
Like 2 people.
if you do an RSVP and see, you can try to get people, that way you can, get some, some sodas and waters.
I don't see people RSVP
So then, I mean, I would rather have a space that's too big than a space that's too small.
And I'll see if the fire
If we
hall's
don't wanna do
available.
RSVPs or think that people will RSVP. I don't know if there's something in between this room size and the fire hall. Do you have anything that's in between those two sizes? That's
Not
available?
anything that's
That's
free.
free.
Mhm. But then it is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah.
But the library.
Does the library have any community rooms?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
They have
here and there.
they have a computer room bigger than this.
So we could contact them and see if we could
Yeah.
use that, if it's smaller than the fire hall but bigger than this.
Okay.
Okay.
When were we thinking about doing this?
So we were looking at the week of April 7th.
Is it the,
7th or 11th.
it's the first full week, correct?
Yeah, the day before, the first is on a Tuesday.
Okay.
So,
How about the 10th of April? It's a Thursday.
mhm. That's open on
Thursday
the
after
rest of
council meeting. That would be, yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
10th at 5. I'll dig out my list. Commercial realtors, that's who we need.
Okay. So I'll put together a flyer for review. And then we, can get that announced and hand it out at
The
the
27th of March.
27th meeting.
Correct, that'd be nice.
Yep. Okay.
Are you gonna be joining us on next, in the March meeting, 27th?
The March 27th meeting is the Chamber of Commerce
Oh,
is doing a
I
business
mean,
meeting.
the next, PC meeting, you gonna be here next month, or?
So probably not March, because we have the 3 meetings, so this is our first of those 3 meetings, so I was, although we could finalize the business focus group in March, maybe talk about, so I could do the March. Then we do the business focus group in April, and then, because we wanted to get this done in about a 6-month time frame. So yeah, why don't we plan on being at your March meeting, we'll talk about dimensional requirements, because I don't think a lot needs to be done to your dimensional requirements, because like you said, we said last time, you already have the 0 setbacks for the business district. The building height seems appropriate. So I don't think there's a lot of changes that we need to do there. We can start talking about parking.
Yeah, there's just some weird minutia, like,
Yeah, just some little
like
things.
roof lines.
Well,
remember
those
that?
are in the design guidelines.
Yeah.
So that is something, maybe we'll combine the dimensional requirements with discussion on if you want design guidelines, if so, what would you like them to say? Because I think what you currently have might be a little too strict.
Yeah, because if you did dimensional standards, there's really no conversation.
No, there's
'Cause
nothing really to talk
It's
about.
so liberal. and
Yep.
You can use 100% lot
Lot
coverage.
coverage,
the
there's 0
setbacks is zero
setback.
on everywhere, so.
Yeah, so there's really nothing to change there. So yeah, we could talk about design guidelines, we could start, I can look at your parking requirements, to see what they are for downtown.
There isn't any.
From use, so that was not, it's not gonna be a big discussion either if you don't require
There
off-street
is.
parking.
Well,
Because before we started this, there was discussion. Our ordinance is 600 feet from the public parking spot. The off-street parking requirements really default to the borough's parking authority. But when you're outside that 600 feet mark, which essentially is Brookfield, which is right here, which is the whole north end redevelopment zone.
There's
So,
parking requirements
We
there.
were talking about the need
So we
for,
want to, amend that part.
I think we were looking for some help.
Yeah, so we'll have to discuss parking, so I'll take a look at that next in your design guidelines for our next discussion. And then we'll plan on the business focus group in April, so it won't be at your April planning commission meeting. And then we can come back together for our final meeting in May to kind of look over everything. So that'll work out well.
Okay, starting time for the March meeting?
It's already advertised at 6.
Six.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I advertised through June at
Okay.
6 p.m. and the legal ad was in your packets.
Okay.
And then if you had one that starts at 7, you just post the door, leave the door open, and you come in.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, at that final meeting too, we'll talk about, because you will have a 45-day comment period and, some things you'll have to do before you can actually enact, and we'll want to talk about, giving council enough information and how we want to do all of that, so.
And it's been nice where members of council have been attending.
Yeah.
So that, it's
So
nice
that
to have
we've
everyone
kept
at the
up to
table.
speed.
Yes.
Yes, so thank you all for that. Okay, any final questions or thoughts? Like I said, next month we'll talk about parking design requirements and finalize anything for the charrette in April. And I'll get this use table back out to you quickly so you have some time to look at it.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay?
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thanks,
Thank
Brandon.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on here. Moving on. Item number 2, proposed Bridgeville Borough Shade Tree Commission. Review and recommendations of proposed ordinance creating Bridgeville Borough Shade Tree Commission. Joe provided a draft which was prepared by the solicitor of the ordinance.
It's essentially, as you guys asked, a morph of the good definitions that you saw in the sample documents. And the meat of it is essentially the Bethel Park model, where it's just regulated, borough properties, and the commissions and advisory board, the planning commission, borough council. Not to, no, it doesn't get into like private property trees and people's yards, and it doesn't turn into like a police force of trees, it's very advisory.
So if we agree on this, can we send this to council? To have
Yes, the solicitor was asking that, hey, send this back to planning commission, see if there's any feedback or anything, and then if you guys are supportive of it, we get a letter of recommendation to council, and council can consider it for their next meeting. And they would advertise it, and then it would be adopted there.
I have one question. Under section 405, it talks about a chairperson and a secretary. Who's running the meeting if chairperson's not there? Is there a need for
That's a good comment, you could just say there should be a vice chair, just like your, I can have that updated.
Okay, that's my only comment.
I had one too. So we had talked about putting some kind of language in here that the majority of trees, like the majority, this group would manage using like native things. Like the focus would be, I'm not exactly sure how to write it, but like if you think about all the plantings we've done through Grove, Tree Pittsburgh and everything over the past couple years, everything's native. So I think then we're putting the pollinator garden in with native, so I feel like we should have some language in there that they're chartered with focusing on using
With
native
best policies.
things or, yeah,
Maybe
something like that.
best practices
Yeah.
based on,
I didn't know if that should be a policy thing or if it should be in the ordinance.
I don't know.
I feel like you should kind of leave that up to the commission. The commission is the advisor of what gets planted, so then they would be the ones saying that. So maybe if the commission down the road did want something that didn't fit that box, why tie their hands? It's just advisory. saying you shall use native plants.
I mean, I would if it was up to me.
Okay. That's the thing.
Can we just say highly recommend or first choice natives or,
I see here you go down a road, you know, I mean, I think it's the whole idea of the.
well, so I guess yes, this commission is advisory.
Mhm.
However, you know, I guess depending upon which way the wind blows, those people may not like using natives, so.
I mean, look at the knotweed remediation that has to happen along McLaughlin Run. I feel like it's a stewardship thing, but I don't know where that should sit.
If there's already invasives here, then, you know, there's not much you can do about that.
You can add to it.
Yeah, I think I personally feel it's more of a policy thing than use the ordinance, but.
Sometimes they're saying so that like, hey, I like Bradford pear trees and we should be planting
Yeah, somebody
Bradford.
should tell you the heck.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
what a lot of towns did plant Bradford.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what you're saying, is you would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's right, I mean, maybe that doesn't go in the ordinance, but then there needs to be some sort of something somewhere.
I would advise.
Strongly suggest.
What's the consensus here?
What would you, I mean, do we have to have it written and come back to us next month?
No, if you just said, hey, we recommend that this be presented to Borough Council with the following changes. One being section 405 added a position of vice chair, and then another section be added to encourage the use of native plants.
That's fine,
Yeah.
that works.
Okay, so we need a motion to forward this to the council?
I think that's all good.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
And that motion contains the conditions that were mentioned?
Yes.
And we'll get a letter.
Okay, so we have a motion, a second, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Continuing on to discussions that were tabled from the last meeting. Chartier Street Park entrance, pedestrian crossing, alternate pedestrian access. I know that PennDOT is looking at the speed issue in that area. We had a person come in last time and talk about not having a pedestrian crossing here and actually moving it all the way down and doing a river walk. I would like to throw out another alternative is put in a pedestrian crossing maybe someplace down close to Winfield with steps going down. I don't know. I mean, that allows a longer sight line for people coming around.
Winfield Street.
Winfield Street.
Oh, I thought, because I was thinking of a golf course. Okay.
I mean, moving it down closer to Winfield Street, that would allow, longer sight lines for people coming down, going down Chartiers from Bank Street. Just one man's thought, I toss that out for discussion.
Yeah, could I offer something to your,
Sure.
I agree with your location. It's the logical location. I would add at Winfield that the crosswalk be on the upper end of the Winfield corner, because a lot of traffic turns left before that, so you don't interfere with there. As I mentioned to Joe a while ago, I had the opportunity to review drawings for PennDOT. Now, you could get people across at Winfield, but when you get them across, which is a good sight distance area, then you don't have access to the switchback road that's there. So into that, we would have to ask PennDOT to review their drawings for their new retaining wall. Because that just gets you across the
Across the
street.
street, yeah.
Then the guide rail would have to be interrupted.
Interrupted, yeah.
And then a leveling area. And I looked at this kind of the same thing you did, I guess, maybe, or somebody else, two ways. One with the drawings I had, and two with the actual location by going to the switchback road. And if you look at that from the road up, there's only a 17-foot, roughly, elevation difference between the last bend and the guide rail. So adding fill there, I don't think would make it much steeper than the current road itself going up and down the switchback. Follow me? It wouldn't be ADA, but there's no way to make anything handicap accessible when you have top to bottom. There's about 1,000 feet top to bottom. But just getting people across the road is one thing.
And then getting them down
And
in
then
the park.
getting them through the guide rail
Yeah,
and wall.
yeah.
But would have to get a hold of PennDOT to, one, look at the location of the crosswalk, and two, address the wall they're building or propose to build through there.
Well, and, you know, I'm not saying that it has to be at Winfield, but I was looking at some place down closer to that bend in the driveway, for the park.
Isn't that where they're putting the entrance?
Entrance is going closer to the bend on Chartiers.
Isn't that what you just said?
No, this one would bend
Going
down.
downhill further, closer to Winfield Street.
Okay.
Then you'd have to think about adding a sidewalk on the other side all the way up to where you wanted to go down the hill. Which, either way works, but it's the length of the sidewalk that's on both sides of the street.
Yeah.
Because once you get them over there, you gotta take them somewhere.
I mean, once you get them over there, then you funnel them down, put the brake in the guardrail. You know what I'm saying?
I know we're saying on Winfield, I don't know where that lines up in the park.
Well, this is the diagram that you sent us.
Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, I see now. It's kind of like where that, yeah, that little area where the no dumping sign is.
Yeah, yeah. You know, kind of right on that curve of the driveway there, maybe.
And it's only 17 feet long.
Yeah,
Isn't there's like an old road
you can,
out from that no dumping section.
Yeah, because that's where they drilled. They took drilling rigs down there. I think it's like an old mine path or something.
you can go on
That was
Google Earth.
another entrance that was tried years ago.
Really?
It slid downhill.
Is that what it was?
That seems like a good
That was-
pedestrian spot.
That was in
Yeah.
1992.
Joe, if you go on Google Earth, you know, you can just drop a pin and it gives you the elevation.
Oh, okay.
It gives you the elevation at Winfield, then it will give you the elevation at the switchback bend. And I think I just sent you pictures. I have pictures of the.
It's just a thought, just trying to think outside the box
And
a
it's a
little
good
bit.
thought, because a lot of times people will park on Winfield anyway and walk over.
Well, I think that, being a pedestrian, you know, we're trying to be pedestrian friendly, and I think that having access to the park closer to that neighborhood, makes sense, rather than making people go all the way downtown and coming back. And I'm not trying to take away from that Riverwalk idea.
That's a nice
different-
addition. I think he was building like both entrances.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that entrance would be
Yes.
great, but
Yes.
it's a second one, not.
But it's, yeah, I think for, you know, the access for people in the neighborhood and kids and that type of thing, to access the park and make it more user friendly.
So would you probably go to PennDOT first to see?
Just Bob was spot on with they're gonna be doing that slope work with the wall there, so we'll
Right.
see how this interferes with the wall. And they're really got on their radar with the speed request, and this was already on their radar when we went to them with the relocation for the driveway, so I'll get something over to them within the week.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Bank Street bump outs, planting plan. What do we know about that?
When or do we have a start date for the bump outs?
They just told me spring.
Oh, okay. No, we don't have a planning schedule idea.
Okay.
But
McLaughlin Run Park, reestablishing rear pedestrian access, bridge to the park.
where did this come in from?
We just asked one day. Just said, hey, we're gonna have a nice big meadow over there.
Excuse me, real quick before you move on, so B, did you want me to just keep this as an agenda item so that we'll bring it back
Yeah.
next month?
So, we just
Yeah, but so, the question is, so they're gonna come in, they're gonna park on that bend then, is that right?
People did it for years.
I know, that's very
That's
dangerous.
Katie Robinson's property, that's not.
It, from what you're talking, I understand it's not
We
T.A.
went through
Robinson's.
that. We went through that when we went to put the bridge in the last time.
Yeah, I think it is the Rome's property.
Didn't we finally get it?
We did an assessment search, and the fellow who presented at Borough Council essentially presented on it as well.
Did
Do
it?
you remember when he presented, and said these properties on McLaughlin Run are owned by, what was his name, Wilbur, and remember, it was like
Yeah,
old names?
right.
That are just vacant, and
Right.
that's a continuation of that.
Continuation of that they're still.
No, that vacant lots, or
Yeah.
continuation of those vacant lots on the other side of the park.
Yeah. So it is usable by the borough, or?
No, it's just a vacant piece of property, that's still deeded to those older people. Now, I don't know, like Bruce said, is there some adverse possession because he's been using it for so long? But essentially,
Tom came to one of the meetings and then stated that it was his property, that's where
He parks there, yeah.
yeah, but it was his property is what he stated. Because,
you can go on county assessments and,
yeah, but we went through that because in 16, I think we put the bridge in because Jason came up with the beams and that to put in. 18 flood took it all out again. It was taken out in 08.
Didn't the BAA put that in? Who put it in?
The borough put it in last time.
No, they'll just have to walk from the parking lot.
All right, moving on. South End Washington Avenue Streetscape Project. Do you have any information on that?
no, that came up like last year, is that the state has, Main Street funding, and it's in our comp plan to finish the streetscape, and the south side seems a logical place to start because it's pretty much all done traffic-wise, it just needs some streetscaping elements to match the rest of downtown. So I was hoping for some guidance on what you guys would like to see for a streetscaping plan there versus us just throwing something together.
Since we're kind of back what we already have, shouldn't we just like try to?
And that's it. It's just that, like, where I was getting is that it could be very affordable if we would just do light poles and
I
and set them, like, if you looked at it where you can have Cadillac and you're gonna pay Cadillac. If you were creative where that block has lawns that the other blocks don't have, and you did the light poles in the lawn, that way the existing sidewalks can stay, so that brings the cost down. Overhead utilities, they're there, but minimal. I know we have a desire to remove all the overhead utilities, but we know that it's millions of dollars. Do we wanna shoot for the moon or shoot for reality? So that's where I was trying to get, I get it would be, I would love to see utilities gone, light poles in the same thing.
Right.
that's what I'm saying, there's more of a discussion here than,
Yeah.
than what it seems. Because at first I thought, that's simple, just match it, you know? And I'm thinking, well, it's gonna be hard to get this all
Yeah.
together. So I don't know, that's why I was hoping to get some input, because there's money now from the state.
Put some light poles, continual light poles all the way down from
Well, I knew exactly what you're talking
what's
about. It makes a lot of
in,
sense.
on Washington now. They end, what, right at,
Hickman.
Hickman, continue those on down to, I think that would look nice.
Oh, it definitely would look nice. What I was saying is that, like, you can do, I don't want to go on record saying a 4-man streetscape.
Right.
Just putting light
You can
poles
use it,
in
you
the
can do it
back.
inexpensively, or
And
you
it's
can-
still
you
have
can-
the same effect, you know? I don't know. So it's worth the discussion.
I mean, every time you bring up getting rid of utilities and burying them, it just, I remember like, so it's comes down to $10,000 a pole, roughly.
Well, let's just actually go and take some pictures and next time plan on really coming up with some ideas. And I think we should go pie in the sky.
Sure.
And say ideally, this
Yes.
is what we want, however.
We're doing this whole project to rezone Main Street.
Right.
That we want
Yeah.
to make. We're working to make Main Street a jewel, you know, and we have the center of towns already that we're going to continue it on each end, going north and south.
So when you look at like down near the Rite Aid, all right, how much of that would be public property next to the sidewalk?
I have to look at them out.
Okay, so there are maps available, so that if we went down and took some pictures, and we would basically say where 6 feet from the curb is public access.
Potentially.
Potentially, okay, all right. Okay.
It would be worthwhile, like you said, walking it, because like this
Right.
whole downtown zoning, like how last month it was like, oh, we should do this, we should do that, or with the limits, and then when you actually walk it, we're like, no, there's no reason to do that. It didn't make sense, and you really didn't get a full respect out of it until you actually walked it.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
So I think what we said last year with the south side was that it would be a nice 2025 goal, is that by the end of the year, we put together a nice plan. And like what I'm hoping for you guys, is a list of bullet points that we can get to the engineer, that you
Right.
can put up a nice one-block streetscape plan,
Um,
that over the next couple of years, I can try to apply for grants for.
speaking of the south end, whatever happened to that little island, pedestrian island in front of the restaurants there?
It wasn't selected for local, what's it, local statewide agency, or whatever, the LSA grant.
Okay,
I'm probably butchering the acronym.
okay. Can we go after it again, or?
Sure. We can make it all part of this one
Right.
project, and
Right.
that would be really
And,
nice.
and then you,
What island are we on?
The active transportation plan showed that pedestrian island, essentially where the yellow score marks are.
On Washington Avenue. between
Right.
The station and Bank Extension. Okay,
right,
or, yeah.
I mean, yeah, because we're already getting some improvements on Washington Avenue, right? We're at the intersection, we're identifying
So
better
if you put an
intersection.
island there, like when,
It's not an island, it is a slope.
okay,
It's only, I mean, depending upon what you do, all right, if you put Belgian blocks in there, all right, it still serves the purpose of slowing people down. And remember, Chad King was all against it because if you had to get emergency equipment in there, he was concerned that you wouldn't be able to do it. If you do it low enough, if you build it low enough, you can hopefully have the best of both worlds.
okay. That's it, what else I was gonna say, not so much emergency, like the truck, you know, big, not a big tractor trailer, but like a delivery, small, like a Cisco truck going to Burrs, deliver stuff, are they gonna like wipe it out with their,
No, because it's closer to the post office than it is.
Or we have to think along those lines, think how many light poles we lose a year.
yeah, you know, like, you know, you got a small delivery truck, you know, 40-some foot, or 30 foot, whatever, making a wide turn, just going right over that. That's the only thing I've
concept plan is in the active transportation plan, so essentially
Right.
that should be morphed into the plan for
Mhm.
that south end. It's all the same.
Right.
Okay. Anything else for the south end? Okay. Need for additional parking, off-street parking requirements, electric vehicle charging stations.
We say, business branding, I would put that.
And that's what we were hoping for from the get-go, so that worked out well. So
Okay.
now just, Melissa had the agenda request a couple months ago about electric vehicle charging.
Oh, yeah, I think, no, I am pretty sure that Pat had asked about that.
Yeah.
He does have a Tesla.
Oh, does he?
I think so. Doesn't,
Tesla Brothers does, I
he ain't much good.
Yes, there's
Well, you
public-
know, and there's more and more of those popping up in other communities that.
They go on if there's
Giant Eagle.
Yeah.
And get-go has it too. Yeah.
think. And there is funding, grants for that too, so. Okay.
So we'll keep that on the list.
For a branding discussion,
No, for
the parking will end up being a brandy discussion.
yeah, the electric
Electric vehicle is,
charging station. I
we'll
mean,
need
that's
to do that.
something we could put on the transportation.
So put on the flow chart.
All right.
General updates, number 4. Earth Day Community Cleanup Event, Saturday, April 26th, starting at 10 a.m., meeting at the Borough Building. Anything else that we need to, any updates for that?
Yeah, we're all registered, so, like, for supplies.
You registered over PA, right?
Great American Cleanup or something, Great Pennsylvania Cleanup, I think. it's called.
Okay.
Something, where you get the free stuff from Pennsylvania.
Okay. I think there's
Are we
an actual one we can register with too, but I'll look at that.
Are we looking for volunteers to sign up ahead of time?
Oh, no, we just had you just show up. We have it on the volunteer
Right.
calendar and the Facebook event page already started.
Okay.
Good, we'll put it on Facebook.
It's already on.
Okay.
Baldwin Street Pollinator Garden Project, any updates for that?
Well in progress. Anybody
There's
has
a lot
any,
of ideas floating around.
we have a project plan. If anybody has any broken down old hoses in their garage that they don't need, we would love to borrow them at least.
Borrow them?
So we wanna,
Outline of that.
outline the bed.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we can return them, I guess, if you feel strongly about it.
Okay, and also enclosed in the packet,
Lindsay, yes.
Joe included Chucky's Park Field Lighting Project, those for proposed project and grant that.
We're applying for a state recreation grant, a DCNR, and one of the requirements is that we notify the local planning agency of the project. So included there is the plan that upgrades the ball field lighting on both Chartier fields. So if you saw anything that you'd like to recommend, that if it gets funded, that's included in the design, we'll pass it along.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Do those lights turn off and on as needed, or,
No, they're not on a timer. It's all manual.
okay, it's dark at night, I mean, it's dark after 11?
When
Yeah.
someone shuts them off.
Yeah, the parks, we shut them off. Users know to shut them off.
Okay.
There's a couple.
And if not, the cops will tell us.
Okay.
Stay on.
Okay,
We wrote Joe's number. Home and cell.
I retired from the BAA, so,
You're the softball chairman now.
oh,
We voted you in last night. Emergency meeting.
okay. Public comment at all?
Just a thought that I picked up on the comprehensive plan from a while ago, and this probably has some history to it, maybe y'all can enlighten me. There was a talk about, or suggestion of pedestrian bridge across the railroad track from the library to James. There's probably been history there and shot down, or I don't know what's required. I know right away stuff to get,
It was a pie in the sky,
never can happen.
I wouldn't say never,
It was money.
it's, you
It's a
know.
$5 million project.
Well, I would say
Mike's project. Mike tried for a long time.
5 million is a lot of money, I get it, but we're,
No, it's still, yeah, it's still on our active transportation.
Right. It's not forgotten.
we've accomplished getting the bridge, or the pedestrian steps up from McLaughlin, where
Right.
we used to walk to school.
Yep.
Put that back, and for your sake, if you wanted to go over and have a cup of coffee over the Bell Bean from your house, you gotta go up the hill and back down again. It's just logical from on Bank Street to go, again, down to the library, or if you wanna go to Shrapsnick's,
Yeah,
and
100%.
we're talking about making it walkable and improving the downtown area. That's just, you don't have to go up the hill to go down the hill.
And it's,
The
like I
handicap
say,
part is what killed it,
Pardon me?
when we did that, remember the handicap part of it?
well, we looked at first we looked at, you know, could you just make it an at-grade crossing on the railroad tracks? And then, you know, just like you have down here, right by the dairy delight, there's a little sidewalk that goes across the railroad tracks, to get to the little parking lot. There's steps that go down, and it's like, well, why can't we do that further down? And I don't know how that got put in, it just got put in, and nobody, but that's technically the illegal crossing, I'm assuming. You know? But, I mean, because there's no gate or anything, it's a, you know, we have a sidewalk that goes right across. Why can't we put one down there by the library? And, you know, the library, or the railroad's like, no, you can't have an at-grade crossing, it's too dangerous, we won't allow it. So we looked at a bridge, and a bridge is very expensive. So it's not off the table, it's something, it's on our active transportation chart, and we have a list of all these different projects on our active transportation, and we're checking them off as we go, and that's one of the things. But if you look at our chart, you know, every one has like little dollar signs, and it has a lot of dollar signs next to it.
And we still have that pit study,
But
don't we?
but it is definitely, Bob, I'm 100% with you. I would love to have some
You
sort
know,
of.
if you get the length, I'm just suggesting ways of making it maybe a little cheaper.
Mhm.
You have the none length, so you work with that, and oftentimes there's the demolition projects that you get a beam,
Right.
it's free.
Hey,
How many beams left Chartiers that were in good shape?
I'm 100% with you. Whatever.
And it's
Any
not wide,
idea,
it's.
any idea that you have that I mean, I haven't looked at it in a while, but any idea that you have, that'd be great. You know?
What I didn't know, I know there's a clearance requirement for the railroad, and I know there's not much that goes through there, but if you're a Norfolk and Southern, or your height is 22 feet because you do double cars, but that doesn't happen here, so you don't need that height.
I think that's what was the issue. We had that plan was put together by TPD, traffic plan.
That would fall into what Bruce said about the ADA.
It's a TPD put together the plan that's in the active transportation plan. And they did talk to, Pittsburgh, Ohio Central Railroad, and they want a design that was around stacking cars. So the height went over.
They always want their ability to go double high.
So that's why
Yeah.
there was the.
Yeah.
You know, that would be low for there, but if you could get that. Okay.
It's, it hasn't been ruled out. It's, if Joe hits the lottery, and decides to donate some money to the.
We'll do that.
People also commit to doing that, I would agree.
Okay, anything else?
Never will.
What's going on with the roundabout on Bank Street?
I have to
Anyway?
follow up with Trans Associates, I haven't heard anything more. Latest was is that they're finding it very difficult to put in a roundabout that's what would be required there. So the feasibility of it being a roundabout isn't looking good.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
I'll call.
One other comment?
I just want to make a comment on my first planning commission meeting, and I guess you can look at what I'm talking about with planning for the future. I'm again just going to bring up what's going on with the Chartiers Valley School District. Them trying to subcontract their bus drivers.
I heard the bids were released and they're staying with the bus drivers, is that true?
I haven't heard that.
I heard the subcontractors came back $1 million over.
I've heard that, but nothing's been, I think, officially released yet. But I also wanted to mention, if anyone was at the meeting, I know Shane came to the meeting, I started going to those meetings just with my son last year, and just the appearance of what goes on in that meeting is sometimes quite disturbing. They don't pay attention to you as a citizen. They're not listening to me. I don't know how to make a difference. I don't know where I'm supposed to go, so I'm coming here. I'm visiting places because I'm not even asking you to support the drivers. Support not subcontracting. Keep everything in-house the way it should be. With them, what I see as a blatant disregard for union, a total union-busting tactic of putting in that guard shack and blaming it on the drivers as a tactic to bust the union. I mean, that's what it looks like to me. You remember the Pinkerton Guard in Homestead, if you're familiar with that. Now we have the Kellington Guard at CV. And there has been no threats. Those threats were false. There was no 911. There's no police report. They are trying to change our school district. The Woodland Hills has been using outsourced transportation. They are not even able to pick up their kids. They have to release, sorry, we can't get you today. You're responsible for your own ride to school. And if you look on their sites, what they issue, which I've joined, they're setting out regular things. We can't pick up your kids today. They also have Kellington Guard as their school officers in the school, which I find that connection with our own superintendent kind of, the appearance of impropriety is there. At least I think there is. And now I've heard there's talk of Kellington Guard possibly being in our schools. I don't know if that's getting rid of the school resource offices or officers, or if that's bringing them in addition. I think we need to keep stuff in-house. We are not Woodland Hills. We are not a city school. We are detracting from the property values of the district and everyone in the district. Bridgeville, I think there's 4 communities that make up CV, Bridgeville being one of them. This is my community. I am one of thousands of people in the CV district. So I'm hoping that I can get as much support from my township to tell CV, this isn't what we want. We don't want this division that's being caused, because it is nothing but disdain after disdain going on at these meetings. People are taking too many personal issues against each other, and we are forgetting about the kids. One thing I know, that if you'll bear with me for just 1 second, the mission statement, and I talked about the mission statement of Chartiers Valley School Board to a couple.
Give you like another minute or so.
You got it, I'll be done. Okay. The mission statement of Chartiers Valley School District is a community dedicated to shared leadership to graduate students who achieve personal success, to provide an exceptional academic foundation and a safe, nurturing environment that inspires creativity and innovation while embracing diversity. Nowhere does it say the fiscal responsibility, and that's all their part on is they're out of money, they're out of money. They are spending over $3,000 a week for a shack to guard a parking lot, and that is our money that could be spent somewhere else. Now, I heard the borough manager, you're real good at grant writing. Maybe we could offer as Bridgeville, work together with the board to get as much grant money for the school, because usually you'd be doing a great job or whatever, and I don't know much. But I don't like what's going on with our school board, and I need all the help I can get. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next meeting is March 24th. It's advertised starting at 6. We continue to work.
If there's some Brandy's coming.
Okay, yep, so 6 o'clock, okay, take a motion. Anything else among the planning commission? Once, going twice, take a motion, get a motion, second, all in favor, by signify